Paul Harrigan could only watch on as Newcastle was put through its final paces at training today. Chief was hoping to make his comeback against the Dragons, but his return's been delayed a week.
Just the fact that I've had 4 weeks off, I think it's a little silly to rush and be a bit stupid now. So, yeah, 1 more week I think is good sense.
Just as things were starting to settle down, Malcolm Reilly was forced to make late changes to his team. With Danny Smales also ruled out, Evan Cochrane joins the bench. Meantime, St George is going along well. The Dragons returned to form last week by beating Norths.
An open footballing side with some very good players, so the competition is going to be good.
Saints haven't won a Marathon Stadium since 1989, yet clashes between the clubs have yielded 7 wins apiece.
There's a few players as well that were here in 96 and 95 and were released by the club, so they'll have a point to prove, and of course David Waite's there, so I can imagine their preparation will be tip-top.
Newcastle goal kicker Andrew Johns might hold the key for the ARL Premiers. Last week he landed only 1 from 4. It was much the same ratio today. Some of his teammates had more success with unorthodox techniques. It left everyone confused and some contemplating a change in career. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
News of the tragedy spread quickly, fellow workers holding out little hope for their mate. Just after 12 today, managers of the Awabba Colliery near Newcastle blocked the entrance gate to the mine. All were denied access except vital emergency crews, trying to find the missing man.
There can be a number of dangers depending on the changing atmospheric conditions because of a fall, but the most common situation at this stage is continuing fall, a rock fall.
The man was working 4 kilometres from the mine entrance when the roof collapsed, pinning him under tons of rubble. Emergency crews took more than an hour to reach him. It's believed the man was performing routine work near a coal cutting machine 70 metres directly underground.
We understand a large piece of stone has fallen from the roof. It's not a cave-in as such.
But for the 54-year-old miner, there was no escape. Fortunately, though, no one else was injured when the rock fell.
There are other workmen down there with him at the time, yes.
Have you spoken to any of them yet?
I've spoken to them, yes. They're extremely traumatised by the situation.
3 hours after emergency crews began their desperate rescue attempts, the man's body was recovered. A counselling team was then called in to help the survivors cope with the tragedy. The news follows a similar disaster just weeks ago when a man was crushed by a rock cave-in at the Wallara Colliery, kilometres from today's accident. Just a week ago, a scathing report into mine safety prompted the Minister for Mineral Resources, Bob Martin, to call for sweeping reforms. Today he reaffirmed his position. A preliminary report on the cause of the collapse is being prepared by the Department of Mineral Resources. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
And Blazing Flight returned $15.40 and $4.30, the Quinella $37.60, the Trifecta $841.10.
Wests held up an early Curry chance, but as the heavens opened, so did the visitors' scoring, the first coming from a pinpoint kick which found Shane Johnson. Curry's defence resembled the conditions. It was sloppy. Les Smith was anything but, racing over for West's second. While Tony Hutton was proving a hit, Curry's defence went to the Dogs. Stuart Collins barged through to find one-time Mariner rake Ryan Dagwell in support before country winger Brett Cullen showed up to cross for his 36th try of the season. 12-0 up, West weren't finished there. Centre Gavin Cook touching down as the Rosellas flew to a 22-0 half-time lead. The second half started much like the first, Curry going close but not close enough, while West continued to rack up the points. The minor premier's impressive 46-point winners. The Rosellas now earn a week off after finishing the minor rounds on top, while Souths and Lakes play in the first preliminary semi-final. In the second, Cessnock will play the winner of Monday night's playoff for 5th place between Curry and Maitland. The Scorpions, meanwhile, are the reluctant owners of the 98 Wooden Spoon. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Chris Nicholson and Daniel Phillips have shared 2 world titles in a year in the new 49er division. Add to that a string of national and international regatta titles, and you have one of sailing's most formidable duos. But all good things must come to an end, Nicholson and Phillips splitting amicably.
The 2-year sailing we've had together was really full on and just so much time together, and I think at the end of the day that's been the major hurdle.
Nicholson is now on the lookout for someone to partner him towards Sydney 2000. There's no rush though. The reigning world champ is looking for the right combination.
This is the most important decision I'll make as far as my sailing and hopefully going to the Olympics is concerned, and that's why I'm not going to rush in, or I'm going to take some time and make a sensible decision, I hope.
Nicholson's next test is in September when he competes in a pre-Olympic regatta on Sydney Harbour. Blake Doyle, NBN News. Each winter, the Anglican Bishop of Newcastle launches a Samaritan's appeal for donations to provide emergency relief for the most needy in the community. Unfortunately, this year, the donations slipped into the wrong hands.
Towards the end of the financial year, a lot of our supporters who are used to us turning donations around with receipts in a couple of days got onto us to say, where are our receipts? So we noticed that there had been something gone wrong between when they had sent their donations and when Samaritans had received them.
Australia Post has since dismissed a worker.
We were probably expecting some $50,000 to $60,000 worth of donations, which Samaritans hasn't received, and that's obviously a great strain on our services.
Money has disappeared at a crucial time for the charity, which is inundated with calls for assistance in the winter months.
It has been quite a blow to us, but there again we're hopeful that now that people know that there is a problem, that they will help us with their support.
Australia Post has launched an internal investigation into the missing money. It's been passed on to the Director of Public Prosecutions. It's expected charges will be laid on an Australia Post employee. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
It's a huge blow to the small Clare community of Stroud, an order of Anglican nuns devoted to prayer and contemplation. Destroyed by the fire was the library, which held many priceless books, a craft room and a workshop where the nuns made small wooden crosses for the sick. The fire is believed to have been started by a candle in the workshop. The mud brick and tin building quickly destroyed. The Clare community was opened in 1980 and is next door to a monastery, the Society of St Francis. Both were built by the community, a collaborative effort devoted to God's work. The damage bill is put at more than $100,000. However, the fire could have been worse. Saved were the nuns' living quarters, the chapel and a guest house. The two nuns have been treated for shock. And at Swansea, south of Newcastle, a mother and 3 children were taken to hospital with smoke inhalation following a house fire early this morning. The fire brigade was able to control the blaze to 2 rooms, but the entire house suffered water and smoke damage.
More than 100 branches have been closed outside of Sydney since 1981. The long list covers most of the state, from Budgewoi on the central coast to Beresfield on the Hunter, Maxville on the north coast and Uralla in the northwest. Banks have often blamed the migration of people from the country to the city, but in nearly 2/3 of towns without branches, the populations have actually grown.
That they've actually increased in population. Now the average rate of growth in those towns has actually been of the order of 61%.
In a lot of places there can be a population increase, but the average income declines.
The Australian Bankers Association says a University of New England report is flawed. It claims over-the-counter services at Australia Post, a facility which operates in half the towns studied, are not included. But at a hearing into rural banking in Newcastle today, one of the authors defended the findings and warned worse was still to come for towns struggling to save their last branch.
And we think that the writing could well be on the wall for those localities in terms of maintaining a branch.
Will there be more bank branch closures? Well, I can't say that. It's up to the banks to look at the viability of their branches.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
For our main, we've got a chicken roulade filled with silver beet and pistachios, with Paris mashed potatoes, a baby bok choy and bay tomatoes.
It's enough to tickle your taste buds. Meet our local talented budding chefs.
The students have been asked to prepare a menu which represents local and regional cuisine, and they've come up with some really creative things.
Using mouth-watering ingredients, one team will hit the right spot on the judges' palate and earn themselves a trip to Sydney to represent the Hunter region in the grand final in September. As the hospitality industry grows, the tireless efforts of these students will surely be rewarded as they fill kitchens in the finest restaurants in the future.
Are you happy with your creation?
Yes, I think that the textures and the flavours came together really well. We were happy with the overall result.
Well done, it looks great. Bon appetit.
Rochelle Edwards, NBN News.
I'm going to get the television. We'll see if we can get it on telly for you. Because what you're witnessing is something very rare. That baby...
Oh, this is gold.
Oh yeah, good.
Should have adopted it or something.
It was during a search of this Kahaiba house for illegally imported goods that customs officers found the anabolic steroids. Police claim they belong to 24-year-old Paul Smith. In Belmont Court today, Magistrate Michael Morahan agreed, rejecting Smith's claims the pills, powder and syringes belonged to a friend.
But I think I've been stereotyped today because of the stigma that's been in the media lately with the football players and so on.
Paul Smith says he's now clean of steroids, but admits to using them last year. He says there's an easy and flourishing market for the drugs in Newcastle, although since the Knights drug scandal, it's become much tighter.
They're reasonably easy to get, really. There's, particular people might approach you in, different places. If they think that you look like a sports person, they might come up and ask you.
According to Smith, the drugs found in his house were worth around $300 and would have been used over 3 weeks. It's a hit which comes at a high price. Smith was good mates with Darren Hirth, a known steroid user who in a fit of rage killed his model girlfriend and then took his own life. Yet Smith still believes steroid taking is harmless to anyone but the user and can't understand why there's such an outcry against the drugs.
It's a non-victimless crime that people are doing. They aren't actually hurting anybody, they're only using it for themselves.
Smith will be sentenced in Newcastle Local Court in September, 3 days after he competes in the South Pacific Bodybuilding Championships. Jodie McKay, NBN News. He's been fleeing police since early June, but Jason Fowler's time on the run is over. He was chased by police through the streets of Adelaide today after being spotted in a bank. Fowler is expected to be extradited to Newcastle to finally face a punishment he desperately wanted to avoid. He was convicted by a jury of assaulting Boolaroo newsagent Peter Kidd in August last year. Mr. Kidd was slashed with a knife about the hands and face when he tried to stop Fowler breaking into his shop. Fowler escaped from court minutes after being found guilty of the crime. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Long Flat were in control in the minor semi-final against Beechwood, but the Shamrocks made a comeback of Lazarus proportions. Down 26-0 at one stage, Beechwood fought back to trail by 1. And as the full-time hooter sounded, Tony Dunn coolly landed a penalty goal to give Beechwood a thrilling 28-27 victory. It wasn't as close in the major semi, as Kendall demonstrated why they finished the season on top of the ladder. Craig Kenny stretched out to open the account. Oozing confidence, the Blues played an entertaining brand of football, Kenny this time putting Barry Beecham under the posts. Kendall went to the break with a 14-0 lead. A penalty early in the second half gave the Blues a seemingly unassailable lead, but Macquarie rallied. A fine individual effort from Greg Keft, followed by a great run from Gary Cook, and the deficit was only 6 with 10 left on the clock. But a field goal by Bo Smith put the game beyond doubt, Kendall securing a grand final berth. Macquarie Hotel will now take on Beechwood under lights at the Warhope Sporting Complex on Friday to decide which team will meet the Blues.
It's a long shot, but worth it for families living with nothing but the hope that they'll one day learn what happened to their beloved sons and daughters.
But it's always in our mind, but this time when we're really concentrating on it, makes it all come back of just how we've loved and lost, I guess.
There's someone out there that knows the answers we're looking for, and we just need them to ring up or come forward and just let us know where our girls are.
The expectations of 8 Hunter families, some with daughters who've been missing for 20 years, were raised when Strikeforce Fenwick reopened investigations into the disappearances last March. Nothing concrete has yet come from those exhaustive searches, but the cases remain open.
We're particularly interested in anyone that may be able to assist us with information in regard to the possible attendance of Robin Hickey at the Arana Hotel on the night of her disappearance, the 7th of April 1979.
The police have been absolutely wonderful, and they're trying their hardest to get the answers.
Amanda Robinson was just 14 when she went missing in the Swansea area in 1979. Leanne Goodall, 20, was last seen at Muswellbrook Railway Station in 1978. She's still missed at family get-togethers.
We had Leanne's photo out on the table where we had the barbecue, and we were sort of including Leanne in everything that we did and said, we're saying, what do you think, Leanne? You know, pretending she was there. And that was very beautiful. A bit teary, but beautiful.
No one evaporates. They've got to be somewhere. So it's really heartbreaking.
The surveys conducted by the Hunter Valley Research Foundation found that it's not just the cultural well-being of the city that benefits from the library, gallery and museum.
For an expenditure of around about $5 million to operate these, the study has found conservative estimation that they generate between $11.5 million and $8 million of economic activity in the region.
For this financial year at least, the services including library branches seem secure. Another local institution, the railway line to the East End, also looks like it's safe.
Here to stay as it is, yes, until someone can come up with a better plan.
The line will be subjected to a tree planting program.
This proposal here of providing landscaping, I think will go a long way to address the visual barrier.
Roads Minister Carl Scully was in the driver's seat to turn the first sod for a divided 4-lane highway north of Raymond Terrace. Running parallel to the existing highway, the 18 kilometres to Karua will see the construction of 2 new lanes over the next 2 years.
18 kilometres, divided dual carriageway, $67 million of New South Wales taxpayers' money going into this area. And that will start today.
On the southern approach to Karua, the next phase of the upgrade, about 4 years from now, will see a 4-lane western bypass of Karua starting from the Swan Bay turnoff, skirting around the town.
It starts here and it will go around Horse Island and connect up here.
It includes a bridge about 3 kilometres upstream from the existing Pacific Highway crossing. The announcement met a mixed reaction from people whose livelihoods are in the town.
Very good news as far as I'm concerned. I think the locals have still got to buy their meat, veggies, bread, milk.
Well, I think it's pretty tragic for the local people of Karua.
We can make it something worthwhile, yeah, not just a dead-end zone.
Well, I don't think it's a good thing.
Meanwhile, the $66 million Raymond Terrace bypass is on track.
We're on schedule for completion by the end of this year, so it's very good news for the public.
Police say a small bar heater overturned and set fire to carpet in the Wesley Street house about 5:30 last night. Home alone, 95-year-old Mary Carroll, who died in the fire, was found sitting, still huddled near the heater. It's believed she was overcome by smoke before the fire took hold. In another blaze just before midday today, fears were held for a young family in the small farming community of Bendolba, north of Dungog. Fire destroyed a turn-of-the-century farmhouse. Brigades could do little to save the building.
The house is well and truly ablaze, completely gutted.
Firefighters pumped water from a dam to damp down the ruins so a full search could be made for anyone who may have been inside. The couple who lived on the farm returned later in the day to find only the washing on the line and a pet dog had survived the blaze. Their 3 children were all at school at the time. News travelled quickly through the community. The family will be put up by friends in town.
Quite an open area, so the smoke was seen there for everyone. And when they saw that, and other locals were saying they didn't need the phone, they just came. They knew where to come to, and that's the way it works in the bush. If there's a bit of smoke somewhere at the wrong time of the year in the wrong place, you go and have a look and see what the problem is.